Ferrari doesn't arrive with very high expectations at the 8th round of the 2025 Formula One Championship, the Monaco Grand Prix, at a point in the season where the SF-25 has shown significant difficulties. We have often analyzed the problems of the Prancing Horse, and we are not convinced by the supposed untapped potential that Ferrari team principal Frederic Vasseur keeps defending so vigorously, especially since his statements clash with the driver's feedback. At the Imola Circuit, this became more than evident, with Charles Leclerc explicitly stating he does not see or feel this elusive potential in the car. On the streets of Monte Carlo, car balance is everything, and it is essential to allow the drivers to approach the walls and guardrails with the necessary confidence. The Maranello team has yet to find a stable operating window. It may sound trivial, but doing so means extracting performance to the fullest. On the track that lies on the banks of the Santerno River, for instance, the setup built was totally out of sync for qualifying, while race pace showed positive signs. This proves that the issue is more related to setup and tire management than to the car itself. Qualifying is crucial, and managing the operating window will make the difference. As we all know by now, Saturday in Monaco is everything for the weekend, and Ferrari, unfortunately, clearly struggles precisely at this stage. At Imola, the SF-25 displayed a marked thermal asynchrony at the beginning of the lap. While the rear quickly reached operating temperature, the front was still outside the window, particularly at the core of the tire. This same issue affected the SF-24 in last year's campaign. We are talking about one of the negative traits the Italian team has carried over from the predecessor car. The Monaco circuit is particularly treacherous from this standpoint. The thermal profile of the circuit tends not to provide enough energy to the front axle, while the rear, already warm, risks overheating. This asynchrony is, in fact, a clear issue that all teams will have to deal with to some extent during qualifying. McLaren, without doubt, is very well prepared in this area, as it has demonstrated by managing this parameter to perfection so far. It is a headache for Ferrari that must be managed carefully, considering their high sensitivity to this factor. Can Monaco favor Ferrari? Undoubtedly, there are fewer compromises. The first premise in the following: at present, comparing the car's characteristics with those of the circuit does not seem very helpful when talking about Ferrari. Gaps are still very narrow, and everything depends on the setup the Maranello team is able to put together, and, consequently, how the various compounds are used. If there's one positive aspect, it is that Monaco demands fewer compromises than other tracks. The SF-25 single-seater particularly struggles to find a good balance between aerodynamics and mechanics, but on this circuit, achieving a balance between those elements is definitely easier. This could allow the team to find a competitive setup more easily, without having to sacrifice too much on the aerodynamic or mechanical front. The Ferrari SF-25 does not have a problem with mechanical grip, despite it being a widespread belief. The Italian car does not lack grip at low speeds. Frederic Vasseur himself has clarified that the car is not weak in this area, but, once again, everything depends on the setup they manage to achieve. However, the Prancing Horse does suffer from certain shortcomings: peak load and vertical downforce, which obviously penalizes the Maranello team's car performance significantly. In other words, at equal speed, the SF-25 car generates a lower level of downforce in slow corners. Moreover, analyzing onboard footage, it is likely that the greater deficit is at the front. This trait has caused issues in the more technical sections of various circuits, giving the impression of a loss of grip that, in reality, is more related to flow management than other causes. Ride heights could help the Ferrari engineers and technicians. Furthermore, considering the layout of the track winding through the streets of the Principality, cars run with significantly higher ride heights. A baseline characteristic, as we partly analyzed last weekend in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola, that could play to the needs of the Maranello team's cars. For this reason, the gap to the top tends to shrink. We cannot expect a full leveling of performance, but this small benefit could help. This weekend, we will finally find out whether Ferrari can capitalize on the mechanical grip it is supposed to have, despite the fact that, once again, the key will be tire management. Theoretically, the SF-25's performance should put it in a battle with Mercedes in qualifying, but if the team fails to optimize tire usage, this potential risks being completely obscured, as happened last weekend in Imola. The 2025 Formula One season therefore rolls into the Principality this weekend for the second leg of the second triple header of the term. Hamilton also heads to the Monaco GP on the back of scoring his best result as a Ferrari driver thus far at Imola with his P4 in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Ferrari team boss Frederic Vasseur has explained how the team will start from scratch at the Monaco Grand Prix to try and overcome its qualifying weaknesses. The SF-25 is a car which is superior over race distances as opposed to single-lap qualifying pace, which is a more important factor in determining the result in Monaco than race pace. Charles Leclerc, the defending race winner, admitted last weekend that he was not optimistic of a second straight home win, believing it could be a tough weekend for the Italian side, which suffered a double Q2 elimination at Imola. Lewis Hamilton rallied from 12th to finish 4th with his teammate 6th, from 11th on the grid, as Ferrari showed flashes of pace. Heading to the Principality, Frederic Vasseur feels Ferrari must simply work through the problems it is facing over a single lap to maximize its result. The French manager told media that even when Ferrari was in good shape during races, the team still found itself behind McLaren. He pointed out that over the last 3 or 4 events, it had become clear that Ferrari had much better race pace than qualifying pace. The Ferrari team boss also noted that in Jeddah, they were the fastest car on track on Sunday, and in Miami, they had also been much quicker in the race than in qualifying. The Frenchman acknowledged that the team was trying to extract the best from the car on Saturdays, but over the last 2 weekends, they hadn't shown strong pace and couldn't identify the reasons why. He stressed that all efforts needed to go into resolving this issue, especially since in Monaco, most of the job would effectively be done by Saturday evening, making Saturday performance even more critical. Frederic Vasseur said the team wanted to perform better than it had during the previous weekend, but admitted that achieving this in Monaco would be more difficult. He explained that Monaco was a different scenario altogether in terms of tire management and preparation, and that the team would need to start from scratch to understand the problems and improve going forward. Now, attention's turned to this weekend, and Ferrari will use Charles Leclerc's 2024 Monaco GP winning rear wing in the 2025 race in order to save costs developing a new high downforce design. But Imola confirmed fears about an issue from the Miami Grand Prix that Ferrari are unable to explain. That is according to the German media, which reports that engineers in Maranello don't have the answers for why Ferrari are faster with used tires rather than new. It is a mystery for those tasked with improving the SF-25 and limits Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc's possible results. The 2 Ferrari drivers being unable to extract the maximum from their Pirelli tires during a qualifying session is forcing the Maranello duo into recovery drives as seen at Imola. It may be particularly problematic in Monte Carlo too if either driver fails to claim a strong grid spot. Ferrari's data on new tires has been alarming the Italian side after it became an evident issue in Miami, as Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton only qualified in P8 and P12 for the Grand Prix. But it will especially alarm them that Ferrari are still scratching their head to understand the problem.